What's happening, everybody? Welcome. Today is Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. My name's Jeremy, and this is my first cup. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Jenny. Who else is out there? I'll take this one down. If you're here, let me know you're here. I want to know about your Tuesday. I want to know what's going on for your Wednesday. What will be the highlights? What are you looking forward to? Good morning, Stacy. Oh, I'll tell you, I went to bed early. Woke up before my alarm. It was great. It's not often I wake up. I feel really rested. Yesterday was a pretty solid day. Did some more painting, did a bunch of work, recorded one of the coolest martial arts radio episodes we've ever done. Fun fact, I was the only martial artist on the call. What could possibly? You will find out. It will drop, and you'll listen and you'll go, that was a really cool episode. Good job, Andrew and Jeremy. Andrew had a huge hand in this one. Really, he did a great job. This was not an easy one to pull off. Stacy says today's COVID and flu shot day. Good luck. What else can I tell you? Went to the gym. Practiced. I've been practicing kickboxing stuff at speed lately. Just really trying to connect. Good morning, Zed. Trying to connect punches and kicks a little bit faster than normal. Normally when I practice, I'm going at 2/3 speed, but the last couple of days I've been throwing some stuff at full speed and trying to push that speed. Good morning, Shabashi. Jenny trained yesterday, had a rough day outside of that. Well, this is one of the reasons we have training. Trying to recover today. Well, I wish you luck. What am I doing today? Oh, it's Wednesday. I've got a call with a client and doing the books, and it's going to be 70 degrees. So I've got some plants that have gone dormant. I'm going to get those put in the ground. Mostly goji berries for next year. I'm more or less just kind of like running in a lower gear, saving myself for the weekend. It's going to be a busy weekend. 48 hours that I'm on the ground out there. Not even. I think my flight Sunday morning leaves at 8:30 West Coast time. So fortunately, Gabe's used to getting up early. Or maybe somebody else bring me to the airport. I don't know. Coffee is good this morning. Jenny, exactly. I can't imagine how difficult yesterday could have been if I hadn't trained. I needed that reset. Yeah. I think that's so true for so many of us, right? The whatever you call your training space, being your solace, your what's Superman's solitude, fortress of solitude, even if it's not solitary. This idea that we have this place where we can go, where we don't bring any problems in. We don't talk about life outside. I think that's one of the reasons that works. We don't sit around during class and say, work was tough today. No, we put that stuff aside as much as we can. Make the best of it. And it's nice to be able to put those problems down, especially problems that are going to be sitting with you for a while. If you can't solve it, it's okay to put it down for a little while. Nice. Congratulations. Stacy says, got myself connected with a counselor starting tomorrow. That is a resounding yes, woo, huzzah. That's great. Awesome. So a little bit later, we're going to talk about bowing. We started talking about that yesterday, and I think it's going to be a good conversation. So we'll step into that in a few minutes. If anybody else has anything that happened yesterday or anything you're looking forward to today, don't be afraid to shout that out. Put it up on screen. Much of my life right now is just details around the free training days. Something's going funny with the booking code for Northeast for the hotel. I got to make a phone call today about that. There's a bunch of little stuff that's going on. As we try to make sure all the details are set. Right? Good morning to you, Dennis. Dennis says hugs to Stacy and Jenny. Love and respect to my whistlekick family. We are family. I spent some time thinking about that yesterday. This idea, this thing that we've put together. And it is a we. You're all part of it. If you're here this morning, you're definitely part of it. I think sometimes, because whistlekick is such a huge part of my life, it can be easy to forget that what we've put together, what is still growing, is so cool. Like, really. Kelly says, after classes, heading out to pick up my daughter from college for a long weekend. Okay, that sounds fun. Hello and goodbye, Andy. Yeah. Well, I got to say, one of the biggest things I've been doing over the last couple weeks, and it's making a really big difference, ironically, not in my productivity. I'm working less. I'm being a little more intentional about not doing certain things. And specifically, other than first cup here, I don't usually start my workday until 9 o'clock. That's 2 hours. What do I do with that 2 hours? I pick up the house. Or maybe I watch TV, take a shower. I do things for me. And that's been the big change. I start my day with things for me. I don't start my day with things for everyone else. And it's been helpful. And it reminded me, and I don't even think I realized what I was doing. Back in my early 20s, when I'd started my IT company and we were working insane hours, there was a point where I had one employee and we were open Monday through Friday, 8 to 8, and Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 6. We each had one day off. I took Saturday off. He took Sunday off. And well, I guess it was after that. I did have a few employees, but I was still getting to the office for 8. I started getting up and watching a movie. This is back when Netflix sent out DVDs. I think we've talked about this before. And I'd watch a movie in the morning, or maybe half a movie. I would start my day with something for me, because otherwise I was getting up at like 6:30, going to work, coming back, going to bed. And you do that for a few weeks, it's really hard to keep smiling. And so I'm being better about inserting that time that I need to take care of myself. Good morning, Nathan. Stacy says, that's huge, Jeremy. It is. And it's funny, it took a long time. It took a very long time for me to be able to put the feeling that was stressing me into words. And it's not like all of my stress comes from this single source. But I noticed that I didn't feel like I had control of my day. My day was not my own. My day was dictated by meetings and appointments, calls, client work. And I said, I need to make my day my own, at least parts of it. I need to start it for me. Nobody else is making me the priority in their day. Why am I making them the priority in mine? A priority, sure, but the number one, the top, no. And there was an instance on Friday, something popped up, some things going back and forth with a client, and I was getting CC'd on this stuff. And I was asked, hey, Jeremy, can you take care of this? And it came in at like 2 o'clock on Friday. Yep, but not until next week. That's okay. The client was fine. The client understood. I set the bar so high that sometimes I forget there's a difference between doing really well and doing so far above that nobody even notices. There's a time and a place to do 100% absolutely your best, and then there's a time and place where you have to dial it back. And that happens in training. Do you throw absolutely every technique as hard and fast as you can? No. Because that's not always what you're working on. That's not what's always going to provide the best response back to you. You can't throw every technique across a 90-minute class with full power. Which ones should you? Which ones should you throw as fast as you can? Remember, if you go full tilt in the first 5 minutes, you're actually conditioning your body to move slower the rest of the class. Stacy says, to quote Sifu Watson's Poe Archery that just arrived at my house, thought for the day, serve others. Also, there are no others. It's the intersection of what you love that others also love that deserves our most attention. For me, that's whistlekick. It's martial arts. Alrighty. So let's flip into this conversation. Yesterday, I don't remember how it happened, but somehow we ended up, I think somebody posed it as a topic, discussing bowing. Now, bowing, of course, there are different ways that we bow in the martial arts, but bowing has a bit of a, I don't think controversy is the right word, a bit of a muddled understanding amongst some, because it is, in most Western cultures outside of martial arts, deemed a submissive act. It is also, in the context of some religious practices, in an act of submission or reverence to others. That could be, I'm trying to think. I don't want to other people, could be others, God, for example. And I've heard on a number of occasions that people have a hard time bowing in the context of martial arts, or don't want to, or don't want their kids to, because we only bow to religious leaders, to the deity we pray to, etc. It's a heavy topic. I'm gonna leave you guys to continue the side chatter. That sounds dismissive. The side conversation here, because some of this stuff is getting heavy and deep, and I don't want to put it up on the screen. Okay. This is one of my favorite things about what we do, the fact that we have this show that fosters these conversations, and sometimes they keep going. So for those of you out there who watch later or listen, I hope once in a while you could get to join us live. It's worthwhile. We've got a good crew here. And if you are attending Free Trading Day Northeast, we will do probably not at 6:30. Actually, probably at 6:30. Might as well just keep it 6:30 breakfast. Although breakfast is probably not going to be until 7. I don't know. We'll figure it out for Free Trading Day Northeast. So let's talk about bowing then. Let's talk about the stuff around this bowing. Like most things, it comes down to communication and to context. If you and I are training together and we bow, if we've been training for a long time, we understand that to be a sign of respect. It is, in my understanding, I may be painting with a bit broad of a brush here, but pardon me if that is the case, that the places where most of our martial arts lineage originates use bowing in place of handshakes. Instead of a handshake or a fist bump or some other westernized greeting and display of respect, there is bowing. It's quite clear in that context. Bowing is not a sign of reverence. It is not necessarily a sign of subservience. It is simply an acknowledgement. And it works out well too, right? Because if you're wearing a couple boxing gloves, it's hard to shake hands, right? Bowing is nice. Bowing is something everyone can do. It's something a group can do. If 10 people are trying to show respect to each other with handshakes, it takes forever. But I've been part of plenty of groups where we circle up and we bow to each other. It works well. Mark says bowing is good if it is presented as mutual respect. I agree. Jenny says we often bow before or while shaking hands. Mark says my students bow at the beginning and end of class. During class, we use fist bumps and high fives. Totally fine, right? It's all rooted in the context. So let's unpack the specific that a lot of school owners go through with, I don't want to bow to people. I don't want my kids to bow to people. Is it worth losing the prospective student? In at least some cases, I'm going to say yes, because one of the things that is important when someone steps into a class is that they adapt to class. Doesn't mean class can't adapt to them some, but in most places, bowing is rather rooted into that school culture. So the place that I would go if I was an instructor, I haven't had to face this as an instructor, but the first place I would go in speaking with people who object to this, hopefully they're not objecting to this in the middle of class, I would say, all right, I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear your thoughts. I would let them speak. I would try to help them understand that it's a different context and that there are plenty of things that happen in different contexts in and outside of faith. For example, prayer. If I sit and meditate, which interestingly enough is something that some folks will deem faith-based, and they object to meditation outside of a house of worship, I can close my eyes and think about things in a meditative way, a non-meditative way, a prayer-like way, a non-prayer way. It is not the physical act in that case that is at the heart of it. It's the intent. And bowing is really no different. When I step into a martial arts space and I bow, I was raised in a karate environment where we bowed coming into and leaving the floor. That means a lot to me. This is the space where I'm going to train, and I will pause and I will think, okay, this is that space. Now, one thing that we rarely talk about on here, because it's frankly just something I keep close to the vest, I'm actually a pretty spiritual person. Pray every day. but it's the intent. I can sit in a church, a synagogue. I don't think I've ever been to a mosque, but I can sit in a house of worship and I can sit there quietly, contemplatively. Could sit on my phone. I could pray. I could think. I could listen to a sermon. Still sitting. Different things inside of me, different intentions. Stacy says there are ways to bow and show respect that are not westernized. The fist with the other hand covering and slowly extend it out also works. Quite often I see that in Kepo lineages. And Kelly, who I believe was the root of this yesterday, I was thinking more along the lines of bowing in other situations than to each other, like to the room. We can talk about that too. Jenny says, example for group bowing: when someone is awarded a new rank, the student receiving rank is at the front of the room facing the class bows to the student to congratulate them on their new rank, and the student simultaneously bows to the class to thank them for recognizing their achievement. In that case, it's a sign of respect. You are displaying a physical act. Yeah. Kelly says, when I trained, we always bowed before entering the training room, but I stopped doing that when I had my own school. Of course, I travel and only rent space. There's no right or wrong. Dennis says, in my dojo, we would bow getting onto and off the training floor and to start and every class. It was a show of respect to those who came before us to blaze the trail for the training we were privileged to enjoy, and a show of respect to each other for the learning opportunities we share. During class, before drills and sparring, we would touch gloves. It was a nice mixture of tradition and modern. Yeah. And what Dennis is talking about there, beginning and end of class, that's pretty close to what I was taught, the reasons that we did that. We could talk about the other forms and times of bowing in a moment, but I wanted to hit this point because I know it's something that some school owners struggle with, and I wanted to make sure that if somebody hadn't experienced this, that you kind of had this in your back pocket in case you needed it. If someone is unwilling to see or consider even that a physical act like bowing can be non-religious, non-subservient, then I'm going to be honest. There are likely to be other issues with that person. Not because of what they're coming in is rooted in their faith, but if you're going to ask people to move differently, think differently, train differently, which is at the heart of martial arts, they need to be willing to adapt and trust. And if someone is not open to doing that, maybe it's not the right school for them. There are schools that don't bow at all. That's okay. If someone wants to go train there, that's fine. But if bowing is important to you and in your school, and if you've explained it and the people who are considering coming into class or in class aren't willing to, when in Rome, do as the Romans, it's probably not the right place for them. And that's okay. Denny says, every time we step on or off the mats, we salute the flags and bow to any black belts who are on the mats. If there are multiple black belts on the mats, bow to the highest ranking black belt. We also bow at the start and end of class and before and after working with a partner. That's more or less what I'm used to. Stacy says, that said, how I bow into the space my instructor or partner changes subtly with intention. It may look the same physically, but they can feel very different. My bowing is almost always, you are safe, you are among friends. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And the challenge here is that it can be really hard for people who have not spent time training to understand the nuance there. I can do all of that. I can I can bow to you. I can bow to an instructor. I can bow to a brand new student. I can bow to a space. I have tradition when I put on my belt. It's not quite a bow, but there are things that mean something to me. They don't have to mean the same to you, even if on the surface they look exactly the same. Mark says, I bow to all of you. This group makes my day. I think it's a great way to start the day. Good morning, Brian. Brian says, slept in, late start today. Doctor's appointment before work to establish care with a new primary care. Good luck. Kelly says, I fortunately have not had to deal with someone not being willing to bow. I always tell new students during their intro class that we bow to show respect and stay connected to the Korean roots. Yeah. Bowing is great because you don't have to touch people. And my understanding might be completely off base, but what I was told at some point along the way, I don't even think in a martial arts context, was that bowing was the equivalent of shaking hands in the West, but done as it is because it is less likely to spread illness. You can do it from a safer distance if you are unsure of someone else's intention, right? And this is where in some circles we have the handshake bow, right? The hand underneath, I'm not showing you my weapon. I'm not displaying my weapon. I'm showing you I'm unarmed, things like that. Stacy says, the bowing is to me almost a sacred part of training. And I mean that on all levels. And this is where some people might look at that and say, okay, so it is religious. Sacred can be, but does not have to be rooted in faith. What does sacred mean? To be defended, treasured, preserved, honored. It's a lot of elements in when something is sacred. It is usually used in a religious context, but it doesn't have to be. And this is part of why I love martial arts. We can bow to each other. You could hate me, still bow to me. The intent matters so much more than the outward expression, as does most of what we do in our training once you get beyond a few years. If I want to practice forms or I want to spar, if I want to do just about anything, it's what's in my heart. It's how I'm approaching that training that matters more than the specific techniques that I'm doing. Dennis says, they should make bowing a thing in my office. And so many people don't wash after using the restroom. Woo! Kelly says, I started wondering what everyone else did as I started prepping students for tournaments because students are expected to bow to the ring and to the judges. So I was curious. Different traditions, different schools. Was it last weekend? What's today? Today's 2 weekends ago. Yeah. The tournament I was at where I saw Kelly. Different people come up and bow in different ways. Some hear their name, bow, enter the ring, get started. Some bow, they come up, they make a formal presentation, they request permission, they back up, they bow, they start their form. Some people do stuff that's a little bit different. I've seen when I started I had a bow routine that was, I don't want to say complex, but a little more formalized even than what most other people do. There's no wrong. Good morning to you, Jason. Jason says, good morning. I overslept and wanted to chime in on bowing. The majority of my Taekwondo training was led by a Baptist minister. We did not bow in our training. Interesting. Brian says, bowing to me is important and traditional sign of respect for your instructor and fellow classmates. It's what's in your heart. And if everybody could see what was in other people's hearts, it wouldn't matter. I could bow to you and you could, make do a Spock Vulcan greeting. If I can see what's in your heart and they match up, that's what matters. But we can't do that. So we make the best of it. Good conversation. I like this. I like when we chime in. I like when we have community discourse on a subject like this. So Frank gave me some stuff to talk about for tomorrow, but if anybody has anything like this, the best time to chime in on it would be towards the end of the show for the next day. So don't be afraid if you've got a topic like this to share it, and we'll unpack it. I think this is wonderful. Jason says, also interested to note when I trained wushu with the Chinese, there was never any bowing. Okay, interesting. My understanding is that wushu is considered very modern in that culture because it's only, 30, 40 years old? Wushu's pretty new, right? And maybe we end here. Stacy says, if everybody could see what was in other people's hearts, it would be so much easier to navigate the world. I completely agree. I want to thank everybody for coming by. Thanks for helping me start my day. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. We do this show every weekday, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. If you have a few minutes and you wouldn't mind making a Twitch account, following Whistlekick, and then watching for a little bit, we're slowly creeping up. We need to get over a certain threshold of an average number of viewers per day so we can take the next steps with Twitch, which, there's some actually cool stuff that we could do with Twitch, but we got to get there first. If you want to support us, you could do what I just talked about, but there are other things you could do. You could pick up something at whistlekick.com using the code FirstCup15, saves you 15%, maybe like a Free Training Day Northeast VIP bundle. If you're going to be at Free Training Day Northeast, I can't imagine a better way to spend $40. You're going to get a bag with books and tons of other stuff and a shirt and other things that we're not announcing. And you're going to look at it and go, whoa, I got all this for $40? Yeah, it's insane what's happening right now. You can also check the entire list of all the ways you can support us in our mission to connect, educate, and entertain at whistlekick.com/family. I hope everybody has a great day. I hope to see you all tomorrow. We've got another episode of Martial Arts Radio coming tomorrow. If you haven't checked out Monday's episode with Art Gully, go ahead, do that. And if you have TikTok, make sure you find him, give him a follow. He puts out some great stuff. I appreciate you coming by. Bow to you. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.